DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen, especially yourself, rather, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one approach, one philosophy, one mentality, one framework, several frameworks within, but one major framework. We got a book about it. We got several books, but one specific book and this daily masterclass. You see what episode number this is? That is called, all under this umbrella, called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is on the heels of yesterday's episode, how to lose your fear of judgment from other people. Now, we just talked about the negative self-judgments that you may be putting on yourself based on the fact that you may think other people are judging you, based on the fact that other people somebody may have even said something about you and they offered a judgment of you, but we just learned in yesterday's episode that it's not really about you, it's really about that other individual. But being that these perceptions are reality for people, right? We all know the saying that perception is reality. How we think other people might be thinking about us is how we really end up feeling. We have real feelings about what these thoughts are and where these thoughts are coming from and what people are saying and what people are thinking. And we don't do that much deep analysis of why another person's saying the thing that they're saying. What we're really thinking about is what? That Velcro part, right? The part that actually sticks to us. They said something, as we talked about a few days ago in the What You Say to You episode. What someone says or any actions that they direct towards us, if there's any Velcro within us that allows that action or those words to stick, then that's what we're really thinking about, because now we've taken it in and now it's that other 90%, the stuff that we say to ourselves, not just the stuff that other people say to us. So how can you lose that fear of judgment coming from other people, being that there are some jerks out there, there are some negative people out there, there are some people who are going to offer you some negative feedback that is not constructive criticism, is destructive criticism, or at least they're hoping that it's destructive. And though this doesn't happen as much as many of us think it does happen sometimes. And there are these types of people out there who have nothing positive going in their lives, so they got to send negative energy out to everyone else. So today, let's talk about what you can do about these situations and these people really internally, not really anything you're going to do to them, but things you need to do for yourself to fortify your mind against these negative jerks that seem to be everywhere that we go. First of all, actually not first of all, but before we get into the points, I want you to send me a text, and anytime during this episode or after, once you had a chance to think about it a little bit, tell me what insight was most valuable for you here today. What is really changing the way that you think about things? My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Text me, tell me what's been most valuable to you from what you got here today or any other episode of this here show. Point number one, topic once again, is how to lose your fear of judgment from others. Number one, if nobody is judging you, or if you feel like nobody is judging, you feel like no one's really paying attention to you and offering any type of opinion or any type of feedback about you or towards you, it's probably because you're not doing anything. If you feel like you are being judged by other people, whether they're judging your opinions, they're judging your appearance, they're judging the things that you say, they're judging what you do, they're judging some idea that they may have conjured up about you that may or may not be based in any type of fact or truth. If you feel like nobody's doing that anywhere in your life, then you're probably not doing anything. It's probably because you're not making any type of impact. You're not having any type of effect. You being in the room or your presence in the situation is just a complete non-factor. That's the only way that you can not be judged in life. All right, so being that I just debunked the whole concept of being judged yesterday and that you're not really being judged as much as you think you are, but based on the kind of definition that seems to be the accepted wisdom, that the things that other people are saying about us can cause a lot of negative thoughts within our own minds. That judgment, that's what I'm talking about. If you don't have any of that, if you don't have any of these thoughts kind of coming in your direction that somebody might be judging you or thinking a certain way about you, it's probably because you're not doing anything. You're not making an impact, i.e., you're not drawing anyone's attention. No one is paying attention to you. No one's even noticing that you're in the room. If people notice that you're in the room and they're giving you their attention, then people are going to think thoughts about you. They're usually really about themselves, but they're using you. So that's what I mean when I say judgment. So if that's not happening, it's because your efforts are not registering on anyone's radar. And maybe that means you need to step your game up. Maybe that just means you need to step up the performance of your game. Maybe you have game, but you're just not showing it the way it needs to be shown. When you feel as if people are judging you, you feel as if people are formulating opinions about you, whether they are positive opinions or negative opinions, here's my answer to that. Good. It's good that people have opinions about you. When you feel as if everyone is, or at least some people, are noticing and they have something to say, and they have something, you can see that there's something going on in their head, even if they don't say anything. You ever see somebody and you know that they're passing some type of judgment about you in their own mind, even though they don't say anything? You ever been in that situation? If that's not happening to you ever in life, well, that means you're probably not doing anything. What you're doing is just not having any impact whatsoever. You might need to step your game up. And actually, let me take that word might out of there. I softened it. You need to step your game up. You need to step your performance up. You're doing something, when you're being judged, you're doing something that is causing people to take notice. And when people notice, they're going to think some type of thought. It might be a passing thought that comes and goes. It might be something that leads to someone paying attention to you every day for the rest of their lives, and it may be somewhere in between. But if you're not getting anyone's attention through your actions, because your actions are just not attention inducing, and sometimes that's a good thing, but you don't want that to be all the time. All right, you need to get people's attention in order to get all the other investments that you need to get from people for you to survive and thrive and get your game out there into the world. So be happy when your actions and your presence is drawing judgment from other people, because that means they're noticing. Point number 2, today's topic once again is losing your fear of self-judgment from other people. So now that you're cool with the fact that people are going to be judging you because it means you're actually creating some form of impact, understand something. People offer judgment of you because we have been socialized to fear being rejected by the group. I'm going to go deeper into this, but I want to let that one sink in before I go further. The reason that people offer their judgment of you, especially a negative judgment, and also sometimes a positive judgment, is because we have been socialized to that one of the worst fears that we can have is to be excommunicated from the group, to be ostracized from the in crowd, from that in group, whoever it is. And again, this goes back to our old, quote unquote, caveman days, when being ostracized from the group could lead to death, because now you don't have anyone watching your back. There's no one watching out for the saber-toothed tiger while you're sleeping. There's no one else who can help you hunt. So if you're incapable of hunting, you'll probably die because you're out there by yourself. There's no distribution of labor. So being ostracized from the group back then, way back in the days, could really spell death. And that fear is still ingrained in us as human beings these days. And this is why we have things like people passing judgment, and judgment expressed to you in some type of way is an indirect way of trying to alter your action, either trying to get you to do more of the thing that that person approves of or less of the thing that person doesn't approve of. And the extreme end of this is codependency, where you just need another person's presence and you need another person's approval for you to function. And the other end of that extreme, the other end of the spectrum, is cancellation, cancel culture, which is when someone is letting you know that because you're taking actions that they really do not agree with, that they just want you completely eliminated from the group. They're not actually going to kill you, but they don't want you in the group anymore. They just want to get rid of you completely. And this is episode number 1755, where I talked about this, the scary truth about cancel culture. It is the far end extreme of this is the other end of the codependency. Codependency is when you really need a person with you in order for you to function. Canceling is when someone really wants you to go away because they don't like the way you're moving. All right, they don't like the actions that you're taking in the moment. And this is why people offer their judgments of you. It's rooted in this. Now, people are offering a judgment. Someone could be offering a judgment that is very objective. They could be offering you something that could actually be useful to you if you pay attention. It could be something positive that will help build you. It could be something that's constructively critical that would help make you better if you look at it the right way, depending on the way that you take the criticism. But all of these judgments are based in, when someone's offering a judgment of another person, it is based in this deep wiring that we have in our psyches as human beings, way back to the days when you had to be part of the group in order to survive. And all of us are part of different groups in life these days. So back then, it was just the group of the people you could physically, tangibly be around. Now we're a part of different groups. You have groups of people by political affiliation, groups of people based on the school that you went to, based on the kind of work that you do for a living, based on what gym you're a member of, based on what band you like to listen to. They're all different types of groups that we are a part of these days. Many of them loosely affiliated groups, and sometimes you're in groups of people that you never even met. For example, if you're from the United States and you travel abroad and you're in France or Australia or Germany and you meet someone who happens to be from the same state as you in the United States and you find out you're from the same state, it's almost like you and that person instantly become friends. Why? Because you're part of that same group. You have those commonalities together, and because of those commonalities, even though you may have never spoken to each other in the USA, here in this foreign land, you have that common thing together, so you're part of a group. So going back again to this wiring that we have as human beings to be part of that group, people threaten you with the cancellation. And what is cancellation? I mean, if you really think about what it is when someone gets canceled, what does it mean? They get maybe fired from their job. They can't get another job in that particular area or industry. Anywhere that they go, the first thing people are going to realize about them when they Google them or something like that is that, oh, this person got kicked out of the group, or that they got kicked out of that group, whatever the group happens to be, because they did something, and usually it's not even something that they did. It's usually something that they said or an opinion that they were representing that seemed to be on the, quote, wrong side of the conversation. That person got canceled for that, and people are so afraid of getting canceled. I mean, we've seen, how many situations have you seen where someone was maybe threatened with getting canceled, and then they went and apologized to the mob who was threatening to cancel them because the mob just put some accusation on that person. There was a story that happened around in the spring of 2021, early summer, late spring 2021. This guy was on Jeopardy. I forget the gentleman's name, but he's on Jeopardy. Y'all know the TV show Jeopardy, the trivia show, and he was doing pretty well. He won. The first time he won on Jeopardy, when they showed him on camera, he held up one finger to represent, hey, I won the show one time. The second time he won on Jeopardy, he held up two fingers to say, hey, I won the show twice. The third time he was on Jeopardy, of course, after he won, he held up three fingers to say, I won the show three times. Now he's holding up these three fingers, allegedly. I didn't know this was a thing. I've seen it come up every now and then. It comes around, then it blasts for about a day, then it goes away. Is that holding up three fingers, the three fingers signal, and I'm holding it up on camera right now, but the three fingers being up, you're holding up your pinky finger, your ring finger, and your middle finger for the three, and then you're using your thumb and your forefinger to make kind of like a circle. So some people call this the OK symbol. And in the United States, usually this is three fingers. A basketball player, Carmelo Anthony, when he makes a three-pointer in the basketball game, he holds up these three fingers and he taps his head with it. That's his little celebration for making his three-point shot. Allegedly, I didn't know when this became a thing, and obviously some people are still keeping it alive. Allegedly, holding up these three fingers is now the symbol for white power. Now, I didn't know this, but I see basketball players do this all the time. Many of them black. I don't think Carmelo Anthony has been doing the white power symbol. He's been doing it since he was playing in New York. So this has been damn near a decade he's been doing this. I don't think Carmelo is secretly in some kind of affiliation with a white power, white supremacy group or something like that. Somebody should ask him about that if you see him. But anyway, this gentleman held up the three fingers, and he's a white guy. So of course, there's a small faction, a small group, another group. They start going crazy on social media that this guy is putting up a white power symbol, and they're accusing him, and they're saying Jeopardy should cancel him and kick him off the show, and this and that and the third, and people are just trying to destroy this guy. They are offering their judgments based on a hallucination of why he was holding up the three fingers, and apparently it means white power, even though people have been doing it, holding up that symbol forever. And again, I just gave you a reference of a black basketball player who's been doing it for years, a guy who has been, I think Carmelo's been on the woke train. He's taking a couple rides on the woke train, so I don't think he is. No one's accused him of it, but it's only when this white guy does it that they start attacking. And the white guy, unfortunately, he goes and apologizes. He posted something online and he said, I was holding up three fingers for winning. But then he said, I'm sorry if I offended anyone who might have thought this was the white power symbol. So he bent the knee to this social media hysteria, which I wish he hadn't done. But we're going to get to that in a minute. Not him specifically, but some other things. But this is the extreme end of this group. You want to be a part of the group. And the last thing you want us to do is kick you out of this group. So we're going to give you this judgment, and you better do what we say, because if you don't, then we're going to try to kick you out of the group. There's another thing that in episode 1788 through 91, where I talked about destroying anti-racism. This is the same thing that they're doing. They say they draw a clear line in the sand. Author draws a clear line in the sand and says, this is the line. If you're on this side of it, you're good. If you're on this side of it, you're bad. What is he doing? He's giving you a judgment. He's telling you, I'm about to prescribe to you exactly what you need to do and not do in order to be on the right side of the line that I drew. And if you don't do the right thing, then you're wrong, and we are going to come after you. Me and everyone who agrees with what I'm about to say in this book are going to come after you. That is offering a judgment. And I'm telling you that all of these judgments get offered because people are using, unconsciously most of the time, they are subconsciously utilizing the ingrained fear that you have of being rejected by the group by telling you this is what you better do if you want acceptance from us, whoever that us happens to be. And the far end extreme, you got codependency on one end where someone will do anything to stay in the group, even if it's completely ridiculous and illogical, and there are people doing that. And then the other extreme is cancellation, when people will try to threaten to kick you out of the group or actually kick you out of the group because you did something quote unquote wrong, even if it's ridiculous and illogical to say that what they did was wrong. Like this guy holding up 3 fingers because he won on damn Jeopardy. In other words, all that being said, in other words, we're still on point number 2. The more you need to be approved of and accepted by other people, the more that other people can control you by expressing their disappointment/disagreement with your actions and thoughts and associations. Say it one more time. The more you need to be approved of and accepted by other people, the more that other people can control you by expressing to you their disappointment and disagreement with your actions, thoughts, associations, and whatever else they hallucinate that you may be about or doing or saying or thinking. I'll give you another example. There's this guy named Winston Marshall, and he's part of a band called Mumford & Sons. Now, I had never heard of Winston, I'd never heard of his band, but apparently they have an audience. All right, these guys have an audience. And Winston tweeted, there was a book that came out of this guy named Andy Ngo, who's an Asian American who's from up in the Pacific Northwest. Andy Ngo wrote a book, I forget the name of it, I think it's called Unmasked. And the book is all about Antifa, which is this group of, I remember when the summer of social justice was happening in 2020, summer of 2020, and I would see these videos from up in the Seattle and Oregon area, and there would be these white people who had on these like all black uniforms, and they're out just destroying stuff, and they were half protesting, half rioting. They were protests and riots, and there was a lot of destruction. They're breaking stuff, all kinds of things going on, and the mayors and governors in these places weren't doing anything. They weren't sending the cops. They were just letting them go and destroy this stuff. And I would half jokingly ask the question on social media, I'm like, what are these white people mad about? I mean, I thought a black guy died. I thought black people were supposed to be mad this summer. What are the white people mad about? What's their grievance? And nobody ever answered the tweet. But anyway, this guy Andy Ngo wrote a book about this group. It's called Antifa, and these are these people I just described. They're part of this group called Antifa. So Andy Ngo wrote this book about Antifa, basically exposing them and talking about what they do and trying to bring light to the negative things that these people are doing. So Winston, this is the band member that I just mentioned, he tweeted when the book came out that, hey, I like the book. He just said some positive things about the book. He posted it to Twitter. Now, he has fans, so his fans saw that he posted it, and maybe some of his anti-fans, maybe some of his haters saw that he posted it, or maybe some people who hate the author of the book, they hate Andy, they saw it. But anyway, what ends up happening, this is the point, is that Winston, the band member, he received a ton of backlash for his supporting of this book. And when he got the backlash, all of his band members got the backlash. Now, I'm telling you again, this is subconsciously how it works. This is human psychology 101 right here. When Winston posted his tweet, a bunch of people who did not like the tweet, they started attacking not only Winston himself, but they started attacking his bandmates and saying, hey, this guy who's a member of your band said something wrong. He did something that he wasn't supposed to do, and y'all need to do something about him, or we, the mob, is going to do something about you, the band. So what happens? Now, I don't know the exact details, but I do know what the outcome was. The outcome was Winston went and apologized on social media. He posted this on social media and said, I apologize. I understand that some of the things that I've said may have been hurtful for other people. Now I'm realizing it, and I had to dig into myself and work on myself, all because of a tweet that he said in support of a book that somebody put out. And then he said, I'm going to take some time away from the band so that I can dig into myself and learn about the things that I need to know. That is what this dude, Winston Marshall, said. And when he said this, I remember Dave Rubin, who wrote a book called Don't Burn This Book. And both of those books that I just mentioned, you should go read. Dave Rubin posted on his page that day, and I remember retweeting this, and it was funny. Dave Rubin said, "Winston Marshall, you're a pussy." And it was a longer conversation that he had, but I remember he posted that clip on Twitter, and I had retweeted it. And one of the things about the whole situation was that all Winston did was offer support of an author who put out a book, and maybe some people liked the book, some people disliked the book, but for Winston to go and delete his tweet, then apologize, and then say he needs to work on himself, and then the craziest part that I thought, actually all of that is crazy, let me back up, all of it is equally crazy. Then he had to take some time away from his band. Now, why did he take time away from the band? He had to stop playing music to work on himself? No. Know why he took time away from the band? This is just my theory. I don't have any facts to back this up. Just my theory is that his band mates said to him, yo, you need to go away from the band for a minute, because if you don't, then the mob's going to come after all of us as a band, and it might hurt our bookings, and it might hurt our chance to do shows, and it might hurt our money. And because of all the band were such pussies, they pushed him out, at least temporarily, so he can, quote, work on himself, close quote, and think about why he shouldn't post things that are going to get him excommunicated from the group. All of this is, we're still on point number 2 here. What happens when you're in fear of other people's judgment? That because you are so afraid of cancellation that you will apologize for having the wrong opinion. No such thing as having the wrong opinion, folks. But you will apologize for having the wrong opinion because the mob is starting to come after you. And when he got backlash, he quickly backtracked. I'll tell you another situation that more of you may be more familiar with, and probably somebody that more of you have heard of, a guy named Drew Brees. Drew Brees is a quarterback in the NFL. I think he just announced his retirement, if my memory serves me correctly. But quarterback in the NFL, plays for the New Orleans Saints, has won a championship in New Orleans, has been a big part of the building the community in New Orleans, especially after Hurricane Katrina in 2005. But anyway, Drew Brees, right when the summer of social justice was starting to pop off, Drew Brees did an interview, I believe it was with, I don't know what network it was on, doesn't matter. But someone asked him, hey Drew, now that you have seen this stuff that is going on in America, or the summer of social justice was starting to pop off, do you think during the national anthem this upcoming football season, because mind you, this was like June when he was doing the interview, football doesn't start till September. He said, Drew, are you going to stand or kneel during the national anthem? And Drew Brees said, well, I would never kneel during the national anthem because I have family members who are in the military, and I feel it would be disrespectful to the flag and disrespectful to the people in my family who served in the military for me to kneel during the national anthem. Now, that's Drew Brees' opinion. I'm not offering whether it is a right or wrong thing to do. It is an opinion. No such thing as it being right or wrong. But anyway, when Drew Brees came out and said this, and Drew Brees is white, by the way, when he came out and said this, a whole bunch of black athletes and people who work for woke sports networks, ESPN, they came out and trashed Drew Brees. I mean, immediately that day, Drew Brees was getting ran through the coals all over social media, all over network TV, because he said it would be disrespectful to kneel during the national anthem. And I remember going to bed that night. I've said this before. I remember going to bed that night and I'm looking on Twitter and I'm seeing all these people trashing Drew Brees. And I'm thinking of Drew Brees. I don't know Drew Brees. I've never met the man. But I said he's going to apologize within 24 hours. He doesn't have a choice. He's going to apologize. He got a whole lot of black teammates. He's playing in the NFL, which is a pretty NFL, NBA. They went very woke over the last year, and baseball apparently a little bit as well. Drew Brees being a white guy at this time, all right, I didn't feel my theory, my judgment of Drew Brees. Here's the judgment right here. My assessment was that he didn't have the internal fortitude to say, you know what, I'm going to stand during the national anthem. I'm going to announce that I'm standing during the national anthem, and fuck anybody who has a problem with it. I didn't think he had the fortitude to stand on saying something like that. And within 24 hours, he was apologizing. And he apologized profusely and asked the mob he bent the knee to the mob and asked them to take him back. And they absolutely did. As soon as he got that backlash. And this is all at his point. We're still on the second point here. This is how other people's judgment controls you via fear. Your fear of how they're going to judge you causes you to say what you're saying. Listen, Winston Marshall, did he really appreciate that book that Andy wrote? Yes, he appreciated the book. How do we know? Because unsolicited, nobody asked him to, nobody asked him his opinion. He read the book and he tweeted that he liked the book. There's nothing wrong with liking somebody's fucking book. But as soon as the mob came after him, all of a sudden, he needs to work on himself. Right. Drew Brees, did Drew Brees want to kneel during the national anthem? I don't know if he ever actually did. I'm not sure he did or not. But the point was when they asked him, again, it's not like he came on the interview to talk about kneeling. He came on the interview to talk about whatever he was talking about. They just asked him about the kneeling thing. Did Drew Brees believe that kneeling during the national anthem is the right thing to do? No, he didn't, because when he was asked the question, he said the right thing is to stand for the national anthem. That's how I feel. He didn't say anybody else had to do it. He said that's what I'm going to do because of these things. I got people in my family who feel this way, this way, this way. Then as soon as he got the backlash from the mob, as soon as he got the judgment, Drew Brees' fear of that judgment led to him doing what? Apologizing for offering his own opinion about his own principles. This is how fear controls you when it's coming from the crowd. And this is why if any of you who's listening to this, you happen to maybe have some ideas that go against the grain of whatever groups you happen to be a part of. It could be a larger group like America, such as if you're well known enough, or somebody like Drew Brees or apparently Winston Marshall and Mumford and Sons, or even a group that you're in. It could be your family members. You might be going against the grain of everybody else in the house. You might be going against the grain of your own team. You might be on a basketball team. There's 12 players. You're the only one with a different opinion. You might be part of a mastermind group and 5 people in it. The other 4 think one way, you think a different way. Do you have the internal fortitude to stand up against the judgments of the people from that group who may not have the same opinion as you? Judgment controlled these people that I just explained. But let me give you a counter example. Conor McGregor, who is an MMA fighter. He's done some boxing as well, fought Floyd Mayweather. And there was one particular MMA fight that he won. And after the fight, he's in the octagon doing his post-fight interview. And he grabs the mic and he says, leading up to this fight, I offended a whole lot of people. I said some bad things about a whole lot of people. So I'd like to take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody. And then he goes on and offers some expletives and the crowd goes crazy. And it was very funny and very entertaining. And the thing is, 2 things about it. Number 1, he wasn't joking. He absolutely meant it, that he was not apologizing to anybody. And number 2, this is the kind of, it was an external display of internal fortitude that you must have in order to deal with the fact that other people might be judging you. That's a positive that I'll say about, I don't watch MMA like that, so I don't know that much about Conor McGregor, but that's one great thing that he did. It was a great example for people just to see. Again, you don't have to do it as explicitly as he did with the expletives like he did. Let me take back the word explicitly. You don't have to do it with the expletives like he did. And you may not be an MMA fighter, and you may not even need to be in a position where people think you need to apologize to someone because you're not out offending people on purpose, as McGregor did leading up to his fights. But that's just part of the game in that sport. But the point is, you have the internal fortitude to look people in the face and say, listen, you think I should apologize for what I did. I'm telling you that I'm not, because I meant to do it. Do you have it? And that's not a rhetorical question. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to lose your fear of judgment from other people. What's interesting about the examples that I gave is that many people will never, even after the apology, will not accept Winston Marshall again, or his band, or ever go see his band again, because they're always going to say, every time his name comes up, they're going to say, hey, that's the dude that supported that book that he's not supposed to support. There are people who are going to look at Drew Brees and say, hey, that's the guy who said he was going to stand during the national anthem, when everybody else said, well, now this is a good reason why all of us need to kneel during the national anthem. Many people will never accept them, even after they apologize for doing the wrong thing according to the crowd dynamics. Conor McGregor, though, on the other hand, it doesn't matter whether people ever accept him or not based on the things that they didn't like, the things that he did that were maybe objectionable according to the mob, according to the crowd, according to other people. Why does it not matter if people ever accept him? Because he never asked for their acceptance. See, when you're asking people for acceptance and you're asking people for approval and you're asking people for forgiveness, now you're putting them in a position of power to where they could say yes or they could say no, or they can set parameters for you and say, well, I would accept you, but you got to do this, 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 and this, i.e., Mr. Kennedy with his anti-racism book. Yes, you could be cool if you're white, but you got to do all these things and accept the racism of your whiteness. But if you don't do that, you're racist, and then you're canceled. But even if you do it, I might still cancel you. This is what happens when you need acceptance and approval from other people. The point is, you need to be more concerned with your own judgment of yourself than you are with what you think other people think or say about you. Other people are only telling you what they think of themselves, for one, and number 2, they only share it because they think they can control you with it. How many people do you think tell Conor McGregor what they think about him? Maybe they do it in jest. Maybe they do it maybe they might just throw something out flippantly, but nobody tells Conor McGregor what they think of him because they think is actually going to have an effect on him. Maybe because they just want to get a response and get the attention from him, but not because they think they're going to control his actions. Because I think he's made a display that telling him what you think of him is not going to stop him from doing what he wants to do. I think he's made that clear. When it becomes clear to other people that their judgments of you have no effect on you, they'll stop offering them because they're not going to get any ROI. All right, nobody on earth, no sane human being does something for nothing. When people see they're not going to get a return on investment from offering you what they think about you, they'll stop telling you what they think about you because they see it won't have any effect. And they'll take that same energy and they'll go put it on somebody that they can control with their opinions. People who are more afraid, people who need to be approved of, and people who need to be accepted. You just got to ask yourself, which one are you? Let's recap today's class, which is how to lose your fear of judgment from other people. Though it's not as prevalent as many of us may think, it does happen at times. So let's talk about how to deal with it. Number one, if nobody's judging you, it's probably because you're not doing anything. You're not making an impact. Your efforts are not on anybody's radar. If people are judging you, or at least you think they are, good. That means you're doing something that's causing people to take notice. Point number two, people offer judgment of you because we have been socialized to fear being rejected by the group. Judgments, those that are expressed to you, are an indirect way of trying to alter your actions. On the far end of the spectrum, you have codependency. The other end of the spectrum, you have cancellation. Many people have been canceled or threatened to be canceled, and then they had to bend the knee to the mob and beg for forgiveness. Whereas somebody like Conor McGregor said, I'm not bending the knee to nobody, and fuck your forgiveness because I'm not apologizing to you in the first place. You got to choose which way you want to go or somewhere in between. And point number three, what's interesting about the examples that I gave here today is even the people who were threatened to be canceled will never again be fully accepted by the same people that were offering the judgment. Why? Because it's hard for people to respect you when they know that you need their approval in order to feel good about yourself. Conor McGregor has the respect of the people that may not even like him because they know that he doesn't give a damn what they think. All right, there's power in that in life. And the point is, you must be more concerned with your own self-judgment than with what other people think about you or are saying about you. They're only telling you what they think of themselves, for one, and they only share it because they think they can control you by telling you what their opinion is of you. When it becomes clear to people that their judgments of you have no effect on you, they'll stop offering them and go to somewhere they're going to get a return on investment or at least get a little bit of attention. So I want you to text me and tell me what judgments you've been receiving from other people that you think have been slowing you down, holding you back, or causing you to become a little bit too self-conscious. My number is 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Text me. Work on your game. Dre all day.